supper time came, the old cook came on deck saying, fellas, it's too rough to feed you. At 7 p.m. a main hatchway caved in. He said, fellas, it's been good to know ya. The captain wired in, he had water coming in, and the good ship and crew was in peril. Later that night when his lights went out of sight, came the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
I don't care what anybody says. At 3:10 in the afternoon, she had either bottomed out or had a stress fracture of the hull. That's the only two possibilities I have. She was sinking from that time on. But my theory is that the water just finally built up on her, finally up in her bow, and she had so much on it, just started her down. And once she started down, the screw just drove her into the bottom. But with all that extra water on deck, at times, I had as much as 12 feet on my deck at times. And I know my hatch crane was completely buried a few times. She was hurt. She had a starboard list. Her fence rails were down. She had a couple tanks, vent tanks missing. I think that water probably pushed her down another 2 or 3 feet. Besides, the list would increase their draft on the starboard side. My opinion is she bottomed out. For one thing, is the fence rails don't break with a ship sagging. They break with a ship hogging. And of course, my other theory is that he just dove under the water. I mean, he didn't even realize he was going down. Those two seas were the biggest that we ever had going down there. And it happened about 6:30 in the evening. And I just wonder if those two seas didn't catch up with the Fitzgerald. I just got to thinking about it afterwards. If those seas were that big, they rolled up his deck, and he's got a list, and the water stays up in the forward cabin, it's going to put his bow down under the water. And he said, I've got a little problem. He said, my fence rail is down. He said, I've got 2 vents missing, and I've taken a starboard list. Now, an immediate list, again, tells me that he either had a stress fracture or he bottomed out. He said he had his pumps on. I asked him if he had his pumps on. He said yes. And then Morgan, as an afterthought, I said, how you doing? He said, we're holding our own. That was at 7:10. That was the last transmission we had from him. He showed no signs of panic. I mean, he was calm. So I firmly believe, I think that he thought that ship was going to get him through. Captain Milrad, he asked me if I'd personally go back out, and I was reluctant to go, really I was. But he said, there's a ship on the bottom, and I felt like saying there could be 2 if I go back, you know, but I finally decided I'd go out. We started running through a lot of debris, gas tanks, you know, like for the stoves, life preservers, oars, canisters, but no sign of anybody else. I think it was sudden and catastrophic. I mean, the ship just disappeared completely. All you had to do was pick up the phone and say, Mayday, Mayday. And there's nothing, you know. I mean, I think they were going under, and they thought it was a big wave. And I think they just kept going, just plunged. I think they're probably remembered a lot more than what you realize by the ships that are still sailing. You know, the skippers that go up through there. I still think, you know, the thought would cross their mind when you were going over, possibly over where the Fitzgerald sunk, and say, oh boy, there's a Fitzgerald down there. And it keeps popping up all the time. It's just there in the background waiting to be something to be said about it.
The last time that you talked to him, at what time that was, over?
I have to check with the mate on it, but it must have been right around 7:15, our time, Eastern Standard Time.
This is good, Roger. So also, did you come about or alter your course in any way to look for him, over?
Negative. I got seas going right across my deck here now. I did not. 3 weeks or so right up in his vicinity, but no, I didn't.
So this is good, Roger. Thanks for that information, sir, and I'll get back to you if we come up with anything, over.
Okay, W4005.
Anderson, this is Bruce Roger. So have the 3 vessels that were up past you yet, over?
That is Charlie. We were meeting the one, and I was asking him if he could pick up anything in the radar, and he couldn't. And I don't know, that was an Anfrey. He was the second one out.
This is Group 2, and just for confirmation, sir, he couldn't see any lights pick him up on radar either, is that correct?
No, I don't know. I thought we were picking him up on radar when I come up here to wheelhouse and talked to the mate. The sea return is real bad, but we thought we had the target. But I don't know. Now I wonder.
This is Group 2, Roger. Thank you very much, sir.
34005. Group 2, here's the mate. He was up here with all the whole thing was going on. Maybe you could get some better information from him. I might have been wrong on some of what I was giving you.
Right now, we have the information we need. I can go back over it with the mate just to make sure, though. The questions we had were, what time was the last time that you had any comms or that you noticed you had the Fitzgerald in front of you, over?
1900, he was approximately 15 miles from the high hump at Crisp Point. That's when I was talking to him. He was 15 miles from the land.
So, I understand you had him visually and on the radar, and you lost him in both respects.
No, I didn't have him visually. I had him on the radar. He was exactly 10 miles ahead of us. I asked him at the time how everything was going. Just wait one. I asked him how he was making out with his problem. He said he lost those vents and he had a lift, and he said he was holding his own. The last time I talked with him, he said he was holding his own, and that's the last time I lost contact after that.
Mr. Roger, that was approximately 1900, correct?
All right. We held him on the radar up to, well, we started getting a lot of sea return probably around between 8 and 9 miles, and when he got in the sea return, we turned the other radar on, and we really wasn't sure of any definite target after that.
This is Group 2, Roger that, and also I understand there were 3 upbounders that were to keep an eye out for this, for the Fitzgerald, and they passed with negative contact, is that correct?
Roger on that. We tried to call him about 6 or 8 times on emergency FM and emergency FM, and every day, and we cannot reach.
This is Group 2, Roger, and can you give me an idea of what the distance between the ships that were passing each other between the upbounders and downbounders was, over?
Well, he was, say, approximately 2 miles to the east of the course that we came down on off of Whitefish Point, so the upbounders that we met, they should have been just about in the reverse course line of what he was coming, or maybe a mile to the west of that.
This is Group 2, Roger, sir. Thank you for that information. One other thing, just for confirmation, they saw no lights, and they picked him up. They did not pick him up on radar, but at the same time, you were tracking the 3 upbounders on radar. Is that correct, Owen?
All right, we were picking up 3 upbounders up on radar, of course, outside of the sea return ring, down around Whitefish Point, and the lookout up here was keeping a lookout, because at the time I said he was 10 miles, that we should see his lights, and the lookout was keeping a lookout. We never seen any lights or flares or anything.
Roger, thank you for that information, and we'll get back to you if we need any further, over.
Hey, Roger. W4805, the Anderson.
Can you give me the names of the 3 upbound vessels that were supposed to look for the Fitzgerald, over?
The other one was a Benfree, and one was a Nanfree, and I just talked to the Nanfree again. He's right up in that area. I can still pick him up on the radar.
Roger, and the other was the Benfree, and also there should have been a 3rd vessel. Was that the 8 of 4s, over?
I think I'd heard him talking before, yes.
Roger, stand by.
The wind is about west-northwest 40 to 45 here. We're in not quite as bad, but out beyond the point there, we were taking water 6 feet high right across our deck.
Roger, sir. When you talk about 6 feet high across your deck, how much freeboard is that, Owen?
We've got about 10 feet. I estimated the waves with some of the big ones between 20 and 25 feet.
Roger, sir. Visibility?
Well, there was occasional snow squalls, but as a rule, good.
Roger. Can you give me an estimate in distance? 10 miles?
Yes, all of that at times. I mean, it did diminish in squalls occasionally, but all of 10 miles. So we're picking up the saltwater vessels coming down toward, well, we saw whitefish at about 20 miles.
Are there any other vessels transiting either downbound or upbound in that area?
There's 3 saltwater vessels are in the area. Well, one of them is up past the area now, but when we last had contact with him, they made us talk to him at about 10 minutes after 7, 1910, and he said he was going along fine and no problems. Except that he didn't have a radar, and that's when the mate gave him his position, 15 miles north of the Chris Point and 144 degrees. What was it? Was it? He said he told him the last time he was just 15 miles from that big high landing back of Chris Point. North of it.
I just say thank you very much for that information. If we need anything else, we'll be contacting you. I have negative for here. So,
all right, W4005. Yes, this is the Anderson. Say, I was just one more thing I was happened to think about. That Fitzgerald is a weather ship, the same as we are. You might be able to check through Lorraine and see if through your stations up there on Grand Marais, so if he put in a position or a weather report.
Roger, sir. We've been in contact with Station Grand Marais. They report that they've heard nothing to the Edmund Fitzgerald. Over.
No, I was just wondering, he is a weather ship. He could have put it in Lorraine or any place. I was just wondering whether you could check through on that.
What's your present position on the weather conditions, over?
We're down here about 2 miles off of Parisian Island right now. We were just getting ready to call you and give us your time at Parisian. But wind is west-northwest about 40, 45 here in the bay. But outside there, and I took one up around the Lightfoot, so there was some very heavy seas occasionally.
To control, is it coming down at all, do you think?
In the bay here it is, but the way the fellows, I heard a couple of fellows I saw talking up there, a couple of them wish they hadn't gone out.
To control, Roger. Did you pass anybody else that was upbound just recently? Or?
Negative. The last 3 we met were those 3 saltwater vessels, the Nan 3, the Ben 3, and I can't remember the name of the other one.
This is Super Control, Roger. We have it. Do you think there's any possibility that you could come about and go back there and do any searching? Over.
Oh, God, I don't know. That sea out there is tremendously large, and if you want me to, I can, but I'm not going to be making any time. I'll be lucky to make 2 or 3 miles an hour going back out that way.
This is to control, Roger. Well, you have to make the decision as to whether you would be happy or not, but you're probably one of the only vessels right now that can get to the scene. We're going to try to contact those saltwater vessels and see if they can't possibly come about and come back also.
The radar here 10 minutes ago, and they were right up to that area.
This is Super Control, Roger. We will contact them and see if we can't get them to search in the area also. We're trying to get a Coast Guard aircraft launch to come up to the area, but I would say things went pretty bad. Like she may have split apart at the seams like the Morale did a few years back. Over.
This is just what I'm wondering, because the mate come up here, we laid it off, and the last known position that we had on them was 14 miles west of Copper Mine Point. No, we had been told, we just talked to him, about 10 after 7, and he said everything was fine, and of course, when the sea returned, never thought anything about it. But we saw there should have been ring buoys with lights on them flashing, and the visibility was good. This is Crew Control, Roger. And you are definitely sure that he was ahead of you, is that correct? That is Charlie, yes, and the wind was west-northwest out there, steady 55, gusting to 70. Control, Roger. Well, again, you think you could come out and go back and take a look in the area? Over. I'll go back and take a look, but God, I'm afraid that I'm going to take a hell of a beating out there on it. If they could get a search, if you could get a chopper over there, they'd be blowing over toward Copper Mine Point, and I don't know how far in there I could get. Let me take a look at the chart again. Roger, standing by 22. Been there a little ways, but there's also 4 boats under Whitefish. I'm cleared out here to Freezing Island, but I'll turn around and give it a whirl, but God, I don't know. I'll give it a try. This is Crew Control, Roger. This is the captain of the port speaking. That would be good if you could turn around and head out that way, and we're going to try to get as many other vessels that can possibly get underway and proceed to that area. Over. Yeah, do you realize what the conditions are out there? This is Crew Control, affirmative. From what your reports are, I can appreciate the conditions. Again, though, I have to leave that decision up to you as to whether you'll be hazarding your vessel or not. If you think you can safely go back into the area, I would request that you do so, but I have to leave that decision up to you. Over. Well, I'll go out and take a look, but I know when I was about 15 miles above Whitefish, we took a sea right over the top of the hatch crane up here, and that's 8 feet up in the water, too, so I don't know whether I can do it or not. I'll give it a try, but that's all I can do. Crew Control, Roger. Keep me posted on your progress, and we'll be back in touch with you. Over. Okay, the B-45. Missing Edmund Fitzgerald in your area. Request you search an area 15 miles due west, Copper Mines Point, Ontario, and 15 miles north of Cliff Point.
In a musty old hall in Detroit, they prayed in the Maritime Sailors' Cathedral. The church bell chimed till it rang 29 times for each man on the Edmund Fitzgerald. And the legend lives on from the Chippewa on down of the big lake they call Gitchagumi. Superior, they said, never gives up her dead when the gales of November come early.